In this section, we're going to look at how to factor a quadratic, and then eventually we'll look at how to solve a quadratic. So the first thing we want to do is look at factoring. Factoring has four basic ways to factor. The first one we're going to start off with in this video is how to factor using the greatest common factor, or the GCF. So basically what you want to do when you're looking at factoring with a GCF, you're going to take out, when I say take out, I mean factor out, divide out what is in common. What that means for numbers is you're going to divide the numbers out. What it means for variables is you're going to subtract the exponents out. Okay, so let's look at what that might look like in an example. Right? So let's say we had something pretty simple here, 15x plus 20. So when we say the greatest common factor, we're going to look at our 15 and we're going to look at our 20 and we're going to say, okay, is there any number that could divide into both of those? So the first number that I'm just thinking of is 5, because 15 can divide by 5 and so can 20. So 5 is what our GCF, or our greatest common factor, is going to be. So if our GCF is 5, I'm going to divide that out of each of my values in the expression. Okay, so I'm going to take 15 and divide out by 5, which is going to leave me with 3x. I'm going to take 20 and divide out by 5, which is going to leave me with a 4. So you notice I put the GCF on the outside, and what's left over stays on the inside of parentheses. So this is a factored form, right? So let's look at another example so we can kind of put it all together here. Let's say we had 9x squared plus 27x. Right? So I'm looking at this and I want to find my GCF. So my GCF here, if I look at 9 and I look at 27, well, they can both divide by 9. So that's going to be my GCF. Now, some of you are thinking, oh, well, they could both divide by 3. But we want the greatest common factor. So a bigger number than 3 would be 9. So we want the biggest number that they can divide by. Okay. Then I'm going to look at this variable. I've got an x squared and an x. They both have at least 1x. So my GCF is not only 9, but it's 9x. So I'm going to put my GCF on the outside. Then on the inside of those parentheses, I'm going to take 9 divided by 9, I get a 1. And you don't have to write the 1, but you can. Then I'm going to subtract the exponent. So think about if I have 2 x's, so x squared means that I have 2 x's here. I'm going to take out, or I'm going to divide out one of those x's. I would be left with 1x. 27x, so I'm going to take 27 and divide by 9. I'm going to get 3. If I take 1x away from the 1 that I have, I would have nothing left there. So my factored form would be 9x parenthesis x plus 3. Okay, let's look at one more, make sure we've got it here. Let's say that we've got 6x cubed minus, let's see, we can do the same thing, 27x. So looking at this, I look and I say, okay, well, my GCF is going to be, well, this time it's going to have to be a 3, because 6 doesn't divide by 20, or 27 doesn't divide by 6. So the greatest common factor here is actually 3. I look at x cubed and I look at x. They both share just 1x. So my GCF is going to be 3x. I'm going to put that GCF on the outside. And now I'm going to take 6 divided by 3, I get 2. If I have 3 x's and I take 1 away, I'd be left with an x squared, because I have 2 remaining. I'm going to take negative 27 and divide by 3, I get negative 9. and I'm going to take 1x away, so I'm finished. This would be my factored form. So GCF, I'm going to factor out or divide out what they have in common, the greatest value, whether it be number, variable, or a number and a variable, goes on the outside. Then I divide it all out. The leftover goes on the inside of those parentheses.